Now that your settings are configured, you're ready to start coding your transactions. You'll see all of your transactions from your ramp cards pulled into the accounting page, and this page will only show your unsynced transactions. You'll see that transactions are grouped by the date they occur. You'll also notice that accounting category is going to be displayed in red, and that's because this is a required field for coding purposes. In order to export this transaction, this field will need to be filled out. You can code this in a variety of different ways. If you click into the dropdown, you'll see all of the available accounting categories for coding purposes. This is going to be pulled from your chart of accounts. You can manually select the value, or you can press Create Rules at the bottom. You'll notice that you can create a rule on the merchant level, so that's going to be the transaction merchant, on the category level, which is going to look at the ramp category for the transaction, or on the card level, which means the card that this transaction occurred on. Anytime you set an accounting rule, this will apply to all transactions that have not yet been synced, as well as all future transactions that meet the criteria. So if we take this Smith transaction as an example, we can apply a rule on the restaurant level, meaning anytime our team has a transaction where the ramp category is restaurants, we want the accounting category to be meals and entertainment. Once I press Create Rule, we'll see this applied to the Smith transaction as well as 887 unsynced transactions. Any future transactions where the ramp category is restaurant will have this applied. There is a hierarchy with rules. Category is going to be the most broad set of rules, as we can see displayed here. There are thousands of different merchants that all fall into the ramp category of restaurants. Next up in the hierarchy is going to be merchant rules. This is going to mean anytime you have a transaction with a specific merchant, such as the Smith, this rule will apply. If there is a conflict between a category and a merchant rule, the category rule will be overrode by the merchant rule. That's because the criteria that needs to be met in order for the rule to apply is much more specific. Lastly, there are card rules, and this is going to be the most specific set of criteria for rules. In this case, we could say anytime a transaction occurs on this work from home card, we want all of our accounting categories to be marked as meals and entertainment. If there's ever a conflict between a card rule and a merchant rule, or a card rule and a category rule, the card rule will always override all other rules. Lastly, if you want to manually override any values, that will always be the end-all be-all. You can always manually adjust any of the accounting rules that you have set up. At the top, you'll notice that there's an Accounting Rules button. This will show all rules that you have set on the category and merchant level. And to the right, there are advanced rules that you can set up. Once you've coded your transactions, you'll notice that the export column is now highlighted. This means that the transaction has been coded and it's available to sync. If your team requires additional accounting rules to be filled out in order for the transaction to be exported, you'll see that noted on this page.